Today, this is a hybrid event. Also, people are joining us live. We're good to continue. In the meantime, Branimir joined us. I think he's our lucky charm, so we can now start the event. The topic of today's event is frictionless international trade, and I'm glad we, OriginTrail, together with BTC, today are hosting this hybrid event, at which we're gonna try to shed more light on how we help advance international trade using various technologies. And I'm honored that we've been joined by global leaders throughout the globe, all the way from Arizona, North Carolina, and then going towards east from Singapore. Also, we have a couple of Slovenian guests. I'm especially delighted we have also Dan Purtell joining us from Scottsdale, Arizona. It's been a journey for him. And I heard that they spend some $1,000 just for tests to allow him to come here to Slovenia. But anyhow, it's really a privilege to be hosting such an event with such global leaders. Moving forward, after this initial introductory remarks, I'm going to give word to Damian Kralj. Damian Kralj is the CEO of BTC, and BTC City has been our partner for years now. They've been supporting Trace Labs, which is the core technology developer of OriginTrail. And it just happens that BTC has, since a few years ago, been a venue of so many great ideas. We have been welcoming partners such as British Standards Institution here, and with British Standards Institution, along with Dan Purtell, which is also going to join us for discussion later on. We have come up with incredible projects, which are also described in British Standards Institution's white paper. And these are not solutions which are merely described in white paper, they actually live in practice. And right now, we are together with BSI and other partners such as SCAN Association working on scaling such solutions. And it doesn't stop there, we go beyond that. Today, however, we're going to be focusing on frictionless international trade and how solutions that are currently operating within SCAN Association, which is a supplier compliance audit network, essentially associating majority of North American retailers in helping them to exchange crucial information, vital information for international trade to happen. We're also happy to have Ken Mcelroy joining us from Home Depot. He's going to shed more light on how SCAN Association operates. He's also a member of board of director of SCAN Association. Next to that, I'm also delighted to welcome Ms. Ajša Vodnik of AmCham Slovenia. She's the Chief Executive Officer. At the same time, Ajša is also she's also Vice President of AmCham Europe, and she will also shed light on vital information on how companies can somehow surpass the current challenges of COVID-19 and how to, rekindle the international trade. So without further ado, I would like to, in the second round, invite Mr. Damian Kralj to also say a few words about BTC and also about the nature of our partnership. Damian, can you hear us?
Yes, hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear.
Hey, perfect. So once again, welcome in BTC City. Unfortunately, I cannot be with you since I caught a cold, and regarding the protocol, I cannot be with you in the same room. I'm not that far away as Ken or Diana are. I'm in Ljubljana, but then again, thanks to virtual connectivity, you can see me. Hopefully, I got my voice back today, but yesterday I was without a voice. So luckily to be with you. And a warm welcome also to all of your guests, and as well as Ajša from AmCham. We're also a proud member of AmCham, meaning BTC. So BTC company, to stress out, not as some might ask, for the last few years, we are not a Bitcoin company. BTC is just the letters. We have quite a diversified portfolio dealing with retail in most, having one of the largest shopping areas in Europe. And the other pillar that is very strong is logistics pillar. We deal with fast-moving consumer goods, one of the biggest in Slovenia on that department. And for the last 5 years, we have been investing quite a lot in startups, having our own accelerator in BTC City. As Ziga has already mentioned, we are very proud of knowing guys like Ziga, Tomaz, Branimir, and his whole team in OriginTrail. Hopefully they see us also as partners. We did test some pilot projects regarding the traceability on logistics department. And hopefully, since traceability is getting more and more important, in a way, knowing where some items of the products are coming from, and also our strategic partners do have to stress that importance. We're looking forward to getting aligned with the blockchain and traceability even more in the future. Otherwise, having such a company as OriginTrail here in BTC is also a privilege to be more widely recognized in global area, and therefore looking forward to another or future products in the making, either in logistics department or in retail department. Hi, Tomaz. Yeah.
I'm here. I hope they'll do.
Yeah, I didn't know how much time you gave me, so I was trying to be more economic with the time, you know. But anyways, you can ask additional questions, so no problem.
Yeah, thank you very much, Damian, and hopefully we'll see each other this week. I know that diseases are here, and thank you for taking this responsible step in protecting all of us. But nevertheless, hoping to see you very soon. Thank you so much for your introductory words. And we're going to now move towards the next session. And I would like to invite all the speakers which are present here physically, Nick and Dan Purtell. And on the other side of the Atlantic, we have Ken Mcelroy of Home Depot and Diana Sabrain from Singapore of OneAgrix. Hello, Ken, Diana, can you hear us? Perfect, wonderful. The wave means yes, very optimistic, yes. I'm gonna leave you to discuss frictionless international trade. Tomaz, Levak, please.
Hi, everyone. I hope you're having a great day as much as we do here. And, with the help of the online collaboration, it's a very exciting day to have also Ken and Diana join us today for this talk, chat, discussion on international trade. And to be honest, frictionless really wasn't the adjective that we would use to describe it over the course of the last couple of years. It's been, I think we've all felt different hurdles, challenges tying to it, and especially since just saying international trade covers so many different things, right? So we're talking about so many different processes, physical movement, digital movement of either products or data, and all of it needs to be synchronously done. And needs to have certain levels of trust and integrity associated with it in order to function at all, let alone then to get to that ambition of having a frictionless international trade. And this important topic today, I mean, I'm really excited again to have such a great group of people to discuss this topic. Ziga already gave a very brief introduction of our speakers today, and I will let each of you also to spend a minute or so to speak a little bit about yourself and have our audience meet you from your own point of view, let's say like that. And then we'll kind of run through a few questions that I've set up for each of you, and that hopefully spring a lively debate on what on the other end, when what we come to is have a better understanding at what really can help us to achieve this goal of the frictionless international trade, and what role does things like blockchain, OriginTrail technology do, and how can we leverage this to help really achieve this goal? Without further ado, so we're gonna go left to right, if you don't mind. I don't know, Ken and Diana, if you see this. So we'll start in person here with Ajša. We'll follow with Dan, Ken, and then Diana. So if you could just give us a minute to introduction of yourself, and then we'll kick it off.
Okay, so thank you so much for the invitation. When I saw the title, I thought, okay, that is something new. I need to know how to come to that stage of the frictionless, but I see that today this will be a discussion. So I used to be an entrepreneur, passionate about change, but lately with the past year and a half, I think, can it please stop this change? Can we do it more on easy? I'm the CEO of AmCham Slovenia, as already mentioned, but also I'm covering 44 countries across Europe and Eurasia. And one of my passions is really how to organize in a more transparent way all the connections, because I do believe that it's really important that there is trust with technology, but also with people. So that would be my passion, how to achieve that.
Thank you very much. Yeah, Dan, please do.
Thank you, Tomaz.
Take it away.
Good afternoon. In Ken's case, good morning or good evening to Diana. So hello, everybody. My name is Dan Purtell. I'm the Director of Innovation for the British Standards Institution, and we've been working with OriginTrail since 2018. Bumped into OriginTrail by accident over in China, and that was a very good bump in. And they say innovation is a contact sport, and so that's where we happened to run into OriginTrail the first time, and very exciting. So at British Standards Institution, we're a company that provides certifications around the world. Each year we do about 270,000 audit days, 70,000 consultancy days around ISO, in and around other schemes or areas of compliance where companies may have concern or want to get those digital credentials. So digital trust is very important to us. I'll highlight, this morning how we're being challenged with some of those claims and how OriginTrail and blockchain technology actually help us verify those claims in a very immutable way. So thanks for having me.
Pleasure. And jumping across the pond in a few seconds, Ken, please.
Yes. Hello and good morning, good evening, and good afternoon to those, depending on your time zone. I'm honored to be asked to participate as probably the oldest practitioner in this esteemed group. I'm finishing year 41 in supply chain in a couple of weeks, having completed just about every role possible in my 41-year career. But I am really passionate about the fact that most of what supply chains do is really generate cost as opposed to generating revenue. So one of the things that we've been able to accomplish in the last 6 years of my career is launching a trustable platform that actually generates return on investment from what would normally be considered a cost center in a supply chain. So the fact that we can arrange this is really and have it be trustworthy is really attributable to the fact that we have a verifiable, trusted, and blockchain environment that allows us to share that data.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I think we'll pass it on to Diana. So we're jumping over Europe, this time to Singapore. Diana, yeah, before you even start, thank you very much for taking the time that late in the evening to be here with us. We appreciate it very much. And please, your introduction as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Tomaz, and it's my pleasure to be here. Thank you, everyone. So I am the co-founder and CEO of OneAgrix, and what OneAgrix does is we are the world's largest halal and agricultural digital trade ecosystem. So what we do is we have an end-to-end solution for cross-border trade, and this would span from DNA traceability solutions all the way to matching solutions, payment, logistics, all on one platform. So what we've been doing with OriginTrail since 2019 was to create an e-commerce environment where we could verify data at the add-to-cart environment. And this led us to being mentioned in the World Economic Forum's Blockchain Deployment Toolkit, where it actually shows us as the ecosystem builder and supply chain use case, where what we do is we take a proof of concept into production mode, meaning into execution mode. So what we are doing is also consolidating agricultural and halal data onto one platform. And what it does, it allows us to trade more transparently. So that is a bit about OneAgrix, and you will hear more about what we do with OriginTrail and the use case, and even in numerous government projects that we're doing right now using that layer of technology. Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah, no, I hope you now see why the excitement was here about the group of people we have on the panel. And thank you all for these introductions. Yeah, I want to kick off this discussion with you, Dan, since I think we probably know each other the most time as well. Like you mentioned, it's almost over 3 years now when we had lunch not too far from where we're sitting right now. And kind of, I want to look a little bit, maybe even wider in the scope of your career. You spent over 20 years now in the supply chain space, within numerous organizations as well. So from Intel, from your own company, from the perspective of BSI, there's just so many topics and things that have been happening in this field over the course of this time. And a lot of that has really to do with data, especially given your focus on the technology side. So as right now, kind of you're taking this experience within BSI and looking at digital trust, looking at the importance of data within the supply chains. When we're talking at things like discoverability, accessibility of data, integrity of data, and verifiability, or how can we really make sure that what you're seeing is truthful and makes sense. Where do you see really the technology being the further lubricant, or what are the key things that have happened in this space over the course of this time that you see as are kind of like the core points? Where would you put your focus looking at these toolkits in enabling the frictionless international trade?
Sure. As you point out, I've been around the block. Yeah, 10 years with Intel.
It does not show.
Oh,
it does not show at all.
It doesn't, not at all. And nor does the travel. So 10 years with Intel, and then I started my own predictive modeling firm, which was eventually acquired. And for the past 25 years, I've been a supply chain consultant, heavily on compliance, supply chain security, authorized economic operator program within the EU, the US CTPAT program for a number of years, and had a lot of fun doing it. No two supply chains are the same. No two companies are the same. It's constantly changing. And I tell you, it really keeps the job and the perspective interesting and fresh. But I know that we live in a world where we've got a growing trust deficit. I think that's safe to say. Consumers are becoming more wise as to some of the charades that are out there. And we need that transparency within the global supply chain. Trust is transparency, transparency is trust. And I think that's really where we've benefited, as well as our clients, obviously, from the relationship that we have with OriginTrail, with the decentralized knowledge graph, and everything that comes with it. I won't talk much about where Ken and I are working together from a SCAN association. That's one aspect, but we've seen, especially with COVID, where some of the claims that are made by companies are either false, or other companies are trying to hijack those claims and use them for their own profit. So we've seen a number of our certifications, be it a CE certification, a medical device certification, being used fraudulently to go ahead and substantiate that there's claims associated with the company and a product. Could be over PPE, it could be over other medical device equipment. And that's really where I see some of the opportunity, not just within medical device, but anything. How can we know everything that there is to know about a company, about a person, about a product, and then the associated claims with that from a sustainability perspective, from a human rights perspective and social responsibility perspective, from a supply chain security perspective. And so we're heavily focused on creating instruments of trust. And really, I think what it's transitioning us is from a business to business type of corporation where we would work with Fortune 500 companies, FTSE 100 companies, whatever it may be, to where we now have a product through OriginTrail that is more consumer facing, to where we provide those credentials to our direct clients, but their client is typically the end consumer or a patient. And we're providing these instruments of trust to them. And I think that opens up a lot of opportunity, a lot of excitement, and consumers want to trust that the sustainability claims, as an example, associated with the company are real, and can we, whitewash the greenwash and actually provide a layer of truth over that. And so those are some of the areas that we're really focusing on, and I think open up a lot of opportunity in the future. Another area that we've been actively working on around supply chain traceability and being able to use blockchain technology, not only to understand what the chain of custody looks like, but to understand is that product getting to the right end consumer. And within the supply chain, there's all sorts of things that happen that shouldn't happen. There are price controls in one market. So you see a product that's supposed to be sold in, say, Eastern Europe for $1,000 per vial that's sold in Western Europe for $3,000 a vial. And how can we use this technology to provide that transparency? And I think there's opportunities there for us to do that. So we're using the technology from a supply chain traceability perspective, and that's challenging. I don't think there are any silver bullets out there, but I think what we're co-creating together really provides a very powerful solution that's growing very quickly right now.
Yeah, I mean, I echo your sentiments on all the things that you mentioned around the really the need of that transparency and trust. To point with that Ajša was also mentioning before, and it's like that type of a layer is just it seems as if it's an inevitable future, right, to exist in some shape or form, and we're really happy and honored to be able to work with you on this particular topic. And while we are on the topic of our work, I think we can involve Ken here as well. Ken, thank you very much for joining in. And you've mentioned the length of your involvement within the supply chain space, and it's something that's a fountain of knowledge, more so than something else, at least from my perspective. And it's I think we would like to kind of maybe hear a little bit more from your experience from the Home Depot, but also from your position as the VP of SCAN organization, so the Supplier Compliance Audit Network. As what are some of the challenges that you guys are working on there, especially since your expertise or your focus, obviously throughout your career, has been within the supply chain space, logistics, compliance. And compliance sometimes is a very broad term as well, used either from regulatory perspective to the retailer compliance perspective for your suppliers. And it'd be great if we could get your insight into how you see the compliance, how you see organizations or industry organizations like SCAN, as well as the Home Depot as an important international actor, play a role in forming this frictional international trade. And how can you use technology to really help you achieve your goals?
Well, thank you, Tomaz. I could probably go on for 15 or 20 minutes on this particular topic, but I'll keep it rather narrowly focused. So again, the SCAN Association is an organization of competitors, and when you're dealing with competition in the retail marketplace, everybody wants their data protected. They want their supply chain anonymous, as anonymous as it can be. So what OriginTrail and what BSI and SCAN have accomplished is the ability to have competitors working and sharing compliance information on facilities that they are doing business with, without knowing who of their competitors are doing business with the same locations, and taking a verifiable listing of details or criteria and evaluating the security of a vendor for its impact to its supply chain. And where we're trying to take this going forward is really to say, Dan highlighted it a little bit before, we're trying to take this to the point where we can create a end-to-end data flow, a verifiable trace of where a product starts in the supply chain at manufacture to where it lands at destination, ultimately to the retail shelf, so that anyone can take a verifiable UPC scannable detail and say, okay, this product came from point A to point B through this, and this network, or this, and this interchange, without any tampering or whatever. So that's really the innovation that Dan was kind of highlighting before. For the consumers need to understand that there is that product integrity from end to end, and we're not there yet. In all honesty, we're taking slow steps, but the fact that we have the ability to link data from different organizations and put that together, that's really the cutting edge perspective, I think, from a supply chain perspective in today's market.
100%, I agree, and it's, at least from our work that we've been doing on, we see these three components as very, very critical, right? So having this interoperability, that systems can talk to each other, so you can achieve this end-to-end, because you might stumble into something that's really not interoperable with what you would expect from, let's say, especially when we're talking about international global trade, and the connectivity of the data, of how you can really need to have a possibility to look or to query or to check out sometimes even your competitors, as Ken said, right? So sometimes your competitors' database or data access, and those kind of value propositions are very near and dear. And I think that to one point, and Ken, I maybe just ask you, if you, as a follow-up, before we move on, how much do you see the potential of kind of like economies of scope happening in terms of while focusing on creating something towards that can be communicated towards one stakeholder group like consumers? How can this this data layer, or this fabric that's being created to exchange data, be utilized for potentially other purposes as well? So kind of doing the job once, whilst you can reuse this data for compliance with the regulatory requirements or any other purpose.
So I would say that establishing the connectivity is really only the beginning stage of this roadmap we're traveling on. So the Scan Association does audits on supply chain criteria for supply chain partners at origin, where it's not necessarily possible to have boots on the ground on an ongoing basis to do this. And then from a regulatory perspective, in the World Trade Organization, there are data components that are uniformly exchanged between origin and destination with regard to transportation parameters. So where we're trying to go first is to be able to potentially link the supply chain security details that the Scan Association and its partners are grabbing, and then potentially marry those up with the transportation details that a regulatory agency wants with regard to maintaining the secure transition of goods from point A to point B. So taking that first step and being able to create a connection between the location where something's manufactured, taking it through where it's loaded on a international trade vehicle, whether that be an airplane or an ocean-going vessel, and then being able to take the transmitted data on that transportation link and linking it together is going to take us to the point where regulatory agencies such as AEO organizations or customs organizations around the world are going to be able to say, okay, this good was loaded in this container at this facility, transferred at this port, loaded on this vessel, and basically taking that to a destination port in wherever around the globe and unloaded. The next step beyond that would be taking that information and saying, okay, what was in that container, and where did those goods go from there, and tying that back through to the consumer. That's probably a little bit further of a stretch, but we're really close to being able to connect, origin factory to destination port from a chain perspective, and doing that with enabled technology by blockchain.
I think that's highly informative in terms of kind of certain complexities that the process of international trade really has to take into account to make it happen day in, day out, and where things could run more smoothly given this kind of value propositions of the technologies like especially blockchain-based technologies like OriginTrail could kind of enable. And now we'll be jumping from the US into Europe again, but we'll still remain tiny bit on the topic of the US trade, since Ajša has joined us here. Thank you very much as well for taking the time out of your busy schedule to come here. As a CEO of AmCham, I think it's you're kind of on the other side a lot of times of the US border than maybe can and then sit in terms of since they're more importing, and AmCham obviously focusing a lot on helping companies do business with the US and vice versa. So it'd be really exciting to hear more about what are some of the challenges that across your career within AmCham, or even before as an entrepreneur, what are the challenges that you've seen within the global trade that could be highlighted and or addressed with novel technologies like blockchain?
Well, definitely lately in the past year and a half, with all the crisis going on, more than ever, companies are talking about the supply chain.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe beforehand, especially here in Slovenia and Europe, we thought that this is seamless, that it is just happening. So this was something that was there, and probably, of course, I know the experts like Dan and Ken and Diana were thinking of, but probably, I would say that many which are not just in the supply chain management were not thinking. Now, I think this is really raised to the highest level of the C boardrooms, because this is something that is really a big problem. Of course, when we talk about the traceability and transparency, this is also something that not only companies want, but as we heard, also the customers expect. And that's why we do talk a lot about that. We are also concerned about the sources, not only about how to really do all the supply chain management, but also where to get sources. So I think technology in these terms will be really important also to help make this more efficient. But one thing that maybe we did not address yet is the question of data and data transfer. So this is something that AmChams across Europe will talk a lot about, because we know that there are directives coming up, that there will be a big meeting in Pittsburgh on the 29th about a privacy shield. So these are definitely topics that will afterwards not only be important for technology development and innovation, but also how businesses will manage all the supply chains, and of course be able to be transparent and to be efficient. So I think that more than ever, I would say in last year and a half, we are aware why this is so important. That's why I think that technology is an enabler to make this more smooth is definitely something that everybody is looking at and trying to be part of that. So I'm really happy to hear that really a company from Slovenia has this great innovative product or service that can help around the world. And I think that's a great opportunity also for the small countries to have to be part of the global supply chain, because probably there is not more just to be the regional. Though we are all aware that more and more companies, let's say in automotive, are looking for the suppliers near to their factories. So I think there will be a lot going on in the next period regarding the supply chains in all different sectors, and we hear it from the companies.
Yeah, I mean, you opened up a Pandora box of privacy preserving things even before we were also talking with Dan and Ken as well, as the importance of really having the business confidential information be protected up to a certain point, but then raising it to another level, to your point, having the because supply chains are extending towards the consumer, so it is, consumer is becoming a part of the supply chain almost, because of the whole life cycle management and the circular economy type of approach, where you have to consider the end customer as well as a part basically of your supply chain. Is kind of, how do you manage that data, right? So how to really approach it in a way that you have the verifiability, that that you can trust that, so it's not something that's fraudulent, but at the same time you also know that you can access it because it is important for you to achieve your sustainability goals, or it's important for you to have a frictionless international trade at the end of the day.
Maybe if I may add, I
Sure.
think here there are two bubbles right now, and of course the Asian one as well. But if we talk about Brussels and DC, sometimes it seems almost that people who are doing all the directives or contracts or bigger basically things that need to be done are not really here and now. So I'm sorry to be so direct, but sometimes it seems that something is on the paper and the other thing is what you need to really implement. And I think there can be a big gap, and we know that all of the important companies want to be compliant with everything. So I think this is an important thing.
I think that's only one of the sectors or one of the fields in which we'd hope to see more synchronization, or if not even synchronization, at least a better understanding of one system to another. And I'm sure Diana has seen a fair amount of that as well, in kind of being on that bold mission of building out a global marketplace for a market that's already huge and it's still growing of halal products. I'm sure that you've had a fair share of discussions across multiple countries or international organizations that are kind of having different ways of managing different things, preventing you from having that frictionless international trade. So if we could hear your thoughts on what you see as key pillars in enabling that, and what does really, especially being an online online service product, online first company, what does it mean to have the digital trust enablement for you and OneAgrix ecosystem?
Thank you for the question, Thomas. And I would like to say that I agree with what Alexander, Dan, Ken, you guys were talking about compliance. You were talking about trust, transparency. Trust is transparency, and vice versa. Now, the thing is how OneAgrix view the e-commerce environment now, and we look at the supply chain in agricultural and halal. We look at how connected, or I would say disconnected, the farmer, the manufacturers, then with the B2B buyers and suppliers. And I would speak in a B2B perspective, even though I know there's a trickle down effect with the consumers. Now, when the COVID-19 pandemic happened, what we see is disconnected supply chain. What we see is very bad, broken distribution between small, medium enterprises, big corporations, and the buyers. So what we do is we realize that in an e-commerce environment, in a B2B perspective, how do we solve this? How do we make connected supply chains? How do we address those gaps? And then when we speak to procurement officers from the halal sector, which 7 to 80% of procurement officers that purchase halal products are non-Muslims. They do not know any better, right, about halal certification data. Some of them would not be able to ascertain whether, in terms of import laws, is the halal certification accredited. So now you're looking at a $2.5 trillion industry. Being fragmented is one, but how is data traveling? How are we consolidating all that data in the supply chain? How are we connecting them? So what we do is we realize that in an e-commerce environment, there needs to be ways that we could allow transparency. And that was where we partnered with OriginTrail. And we created a use case that would allow B2B procurement officers to look at some data points, right? And for us, we did a proof of concept, which is together with Perut Inapatui. And what we do with the halal certification body in Slovenia was to take that master data and then to save it in the NOS system, and then show that data onto the add to cart environment. So what we are looking is an e-commerce environment whereby there is data provenance, at least there's data provenance. Now, does that solve food fraud issues? Does that solve, packaging being changed halfway in transportation, like Ken mentioned just now, right, about end-to-end supply chain and solving fraudulent activities. Now, that is where OneAgrix see this as a multi-stakeholder approach, where science meet technology, where we utilize and harness the power of blockchain technology that's provided via OriginTrail, and at the same time, we do have DNA traceability with our partners from other partners as well. And in terms of supply chain and transportation, as Ken mentioned just now, we partnered with one of the world's largest digital shipping marketplace, where we'll be able to share that data to our buyers and suppliers. So this is, like what Ken mentioned, it is early stages, but we do have big organizations. Nestle is one of our customers, and oftentimes when we say that we want to save their data, at least their halal certificates, they talk about privacy, which Alexander has actually mentioned. How do we protect our data from competitors, like what Ken mentioned just now? So this is some of the approach that OneAgrix is doing. We're looking at the e-commerce environment, adapting scientific and data provenance at once, harnessing those data on the OriginTrail blockchain layer, and then making that data available to B2B procurement officers. And as you know, if we only look at it at a data provenance perspective, then people could then show that data can be forged, right? How certain are we? Even at the master data perspective, how certain are we? So scientific provenance is important, and this is the future. Consumers want to know where food comes from, wants to know that where's the origin, and it's not just about data, it's also about science. So that's how OneAgrix look at the ecosystem going forward. Agriculture and halal. People always ask, when you say halal, why is agriculture involved? Well, vegetable and tomatoes and unprocessed goods is considered halal. So that's just something that I wanted to clarify.
Yeah, I mean, those are great points, and I think OneAgrix has a blessing and a curse at the same time of being online marketplace, because you have, in a way, a blessing of being able to rely a bit more on data and also data feeds, and kind of that has to be your focus, given that you are an online marketplace. But at the same time, obviously it's a curse, because it's also the only way that you can communicate certain things. So that type of digital trust needs to be enshrined within really the platform and the entire process, so that then what happens in the physical world can follow what happens on OneAgrix. So I think all the points that you made are very valid. Now I'm looking at my tiny clock here. We have about 9 minutes before we'll have to bolt off. So I think we have just about enough time to do a quick round of closing thoughts, if you don't mind going through that kind of exercise, and we can go the same order as we started. So maybe Dan, hearing the kind of the also other speakers, what are your thoughts to close off?
Yeah. So a lot of respect for my fellow panelists. And I know we talked a lot today about supply chain, and obviously supply chain, that's my wheelhouse, my former wheelhouse, and I see a lot of application there. We also see it more broadly too. I think the technology can be used from a digital trust perspective around a lot of areas that we've seen challenges. I know Ken and I have been working closely together for a long time, and with the SCAN Association. And I think once you hit a certain level of, call it popularity from a brand perspective, from a product perspective, that's when you open up opportunities for other bad actors to come into play. So even with certifications, so with BSI certifications, we've seen bad actors going ahead and making false claims in terms of the certifications that they have, not necessarily supply chain related. So I think from a digital trust perspective, definitely something that we're trying to not just adopt, but be a thought leader on. I think there's an application for this technology in those other spaces. So if it's a credential that we're issuing, we train about 250,000 people a year and give them different credentials, be it a lead ISO 9000 certification course. We're using this technology to not only blockchain that credential, but have them be able to post that on LinkedIn and actually have somebody immediately verify that, as well as some of the certifications that we credential. And I think that's going to then extend to the product. So, 2018, I'm glad we bumped into each other. I think it's been a very good journey. It's a great strategic partnership with BSI, and we only plan on growing it. So appreciate the invite again and look forward to future growth.
The sentiment is absolutely goes both ways, and I appreciate you taking the time of and making your way here. It's a pleasure to have you here, and looking forward also to the rest of the week with you here. But then more largely, of course, of the work that we've already embarked on and will continue to work.
Thanks, Thomas.
Ken, maybe if we could ask you for your closing thoughts as well.
Sure. Dan has been really good about teeing me up with opportunities here. So from a Home Depot perspective, and Diana highlighted the challenges of fractured supply chains during the pandemic. So I was sharing a story with Dan and Thomas earlier today. Home Depot took some very aggressive flows to keep its product moving. And we partnered with quickly some organizations that were perhaps not as familiar with us as we would have liked them to be. And we exposed some of our data because there are public portions of your data that regulatory agencies require. So what Dan was really highlighting is the fact that the regulatory agencies allow access or control access based on registrations. So perhaps the ownership or the beauty of this technology going forward is the owners of the data own the permissioning for who can have access to it. So it's a complete shift, and that's where I think the beauty of where we're going with secure data exchanges is going to be going forward.
Thank you. Yeah, I think you also going back to our discussion, nailed it on the head. This type of privacy preserving also from the business context is absolutely necessary, and so it's that's why we are attempting the decentralized knowledge graph is attempting to connect while preserving that privacy. And I think a perfect segue also for Ajša's closing thoughts.
Yeah, for me, probably what I can say at the end is first really impressed in what I've heard today, but even more impressed that I'll brag around Europe about your cases. And I think it's important that we do have companies like that that really can unify and unite the world. And we at AmCham across Europe, we basically cover the companies that employ more than 20 million people. So I think trust is something that always resonates with me. So happy to hear that your services do magnify that. So thank you so much, and keep up the good work.
Worry not. I think with partners like we have here, it's the only direction is onwards and upwards for the entire ecosystem. And thank you, of course, for taking the time as well. Diana, off to your closing thoughts.
Yes, so Alexander, OriginTrail's technology is amazing, and if you want to hear another true story, now I wanted to say that part of the technology right now that OriginTrail is using together with OneAgrix is to empower the African continent. So we do have a project going on with the government of Nigeria. It's called the Nigeria Feeds the World Initiative, and the African continent. This January was the inception of the AFCFTA, and so the continent is all ready to go global. And naturally, the agricultural and halal sector comes into play. And so we went to Nigeria. We had discussions back and forth, and finally, we do have this Nigeria Feeds the World initiative, which we will use the OriginTrail technology, the NOS technology, as a layer of data transparency on the OneAgrix platform. And this is where we could now not only use that data to do cross-border trade, which is, to the theme of frictionless cross-border trade, international trade in this theme, but at the same time, we could then empower people in the UN SDGs. We're talking about lowering poverty rates. We're talking about giving economic empowerment to the continent. And, Africa truly can feed itself. It would feed the world. And so there you go, OriginTrail technology together with us. That is our aim. It's not just all about profits for us, about transparent supply chain. It's also about sustainability, and we take this really seriously. So thank you so much, Tomaz, and Ziga and Radamir and everyone here. And very happy to share how OriginTrail would change the world.
Diana, thank you very much for those closing thoughts. And I think the sustainability importance is well to be a afterthought of this event. I think it's shared across the panel, the importance of measuring the impact against things that really matter and are important and have been recognized as such as well globally is very, very important. And the work that all across the board here is happening that raises transparency, that raises trust, is undoubtedly leading the humanity in a better position than it found it, right? So we are by achieving success in deploying, by achieving success in furthering this vision, making a change for the better in the world. And that includes a frictionless international trade. I'd like to thank you. I've learned a lot. I mean, listening through the challenges that we were talking about of the COVID times, of just the different fragmented supply chains, fragmented systems. I think we did manage to get also on the other side with a couple of lessons of the importance of digital trust that Dan has highlighted, of the importance of having something neutral, of something inclusive, of something interoperable that even furthers co-opetition of competitors working together and enabling a better collaboration and better, more accessible, basically products and services across the globe, as Ken has highlighted, but at the same time having the privacy preserved, either for the business purposes of the business units or even individuals that are involved in this process. And last but not least, of course, Diana highlighted how, or reiterated how there's no silver bullets in this space. We all got to work together. Technologists needs to work together. People need to work together in order for us to all come to a final impact that we all work for every day. Again, panel, you've been absolutely amazing. Thank you very much for taking the time to come here and speak with us. Thank you all from, I don't know which camera I should be looking at, so I'm checking all of them out, but thank you all online that have taken the time to come and hang out with us today. And we're very much excited to welcome you to the next time, which, follow us on all the usual channels which you can find around. Thank you again. And those of you that managed to come here live, you're in for a treat because there's also some networking the lights in the back. So thank you very much and wish you all a lovely day, evening, and good morning, day, and evening. There you go. Thank you very much.